Ladies and gentlemen, we live in a world that constantly demands more from us, more productivity, more efficiency, more success. And with these demands come pressures, challenges, and a heavy weight that many of us carry every single day: stress. Now, let's talk about what happens when stress and learning meet. We often think of learning as something that happens in a calm, structured environment, but stress has a way of creeping into that space, affecting the very foundation of how we absorb, retain, and apply knowledge. Stress is not just a feeling, it's a physiological response that affects our brain, our body, and ultimately our ability to learn. Imagine this. You're sitting in front of your textbooks or in a classroom, but your mind is elsewhere, caught in a whirlwind of worries and anxieties. Your heart races, your thoughts scatter, and suddenly, what once seemed like simple information feels impossible to grasp. When we experience stress, our body goes into survival mode. Our brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone, and this changes the way our brain functions. The hippocampus, the area responsible for memory and learning, begins to shrink under the constant exposure to stress. This means, quite simply, that stress literally prevents us from remembering what we're trying to learn. But there's more. Stress reduces our ability to focus. You can't retain information if you can't focus on the task at hand. Stress pulls our attention in 1,000 different directions. It distracts us from the present moment, and without the ability to focus, learning becomes fragmented, incomplete. And it doesn't stop there. Stress also creates a sense of helplessness. We begin to doubt our own abilities. We tell ourselves, "I'll never get this. This is too much." That self-doubt becomes a barrier, and that barrier makes learning even harder. But here's the thing. Stress doesn't have to control us. Stress is a part of life, yes, but we don't have to let it define our learning experience. We can choose to change how we respond to it. Imagine, just for a moment, a space where we are not bound by the pressures of perfection, where we can learn from our mistakes, embrace challenges, and take breaks when needed. A place where we understand that learning is not about the constant rush, but the consistent process. It's about recognizing that our minds need care, rest, and love just as much as our bodies. So, how can we protect our learning from stress? Start by recognizing the signs of stress in yourself. Take a deep breath, pause, and give yourself permission to step back when things feel overwhelming. Break down tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks, and give yourself credit for every small victory along the way. Surround yourself with a support system, a group of people who believe in your potential, who remind you that stress does not define your worth. And remember, there's no shame in struggling. We all face difficulties, but it's through those challenges that we grow. The path to learning is not always smooth, but every bump along the way is an opportunity to rise, to adapt, and to become stronger. To everyone who feels the weight of stress, know this: it's okay to be human. It's okay to take a step back. You are capable of learning, growing, and achieving, no matter the obstacles in your path. Stress is often viewed as an inevitable part of life, a natural response to challenging situations, or a force that drives us to achieve our goals. However, when stress becomes chronic or overwhelming, it can have profound effects on our cognitive abilities, particularly on learning and memory. One of the most significant areas impacted by stress is the hippocampus, a small but essential part of the brain responsible for forming, organizing, and storing memories. The effects of stress on the hippocampus and memory are not merely theoretical, but are supported by extensive scientific research that demonstrates how stress impairs our ability to process information, recall facts, and learn new skills. The hippocampus plays a pivotal role in learning and memory processes. It helps us encode new information related to past experiences and retrieve it when needed. This intricate system of encoding and retrieval is vital for everything from basic tasks, such as remembering where we placed our keys, to more complex ones like mastering a new language or solving mathematical problems. The hippocampus acts as a bridge between short-term and long-term memory, ensuring that what we learn today becomes part of our knowledge base for the future. It also helps us navigate through our daily lives by associating new information with context, thereby allowing us to make sense of our experiences. When stress occurs, our body's natural response is to activate the fight or flight mechanism. This response, in turn, releases a series of hormones, the most notable of which is cortisol. Cortisol, often referred to as the stress hormone, is essential for managing short-term stress as it increases alertness and prepares the body to confront a perceived threat. In the short run, cortisol is beneficial. It helps us focus and act quickly in response to immediate challenges. However, when stress is prolonged, cortisol levels remain elevated, and this can have detrimental effects on the brain, particularly the hippocampus. Chronic exposure to elevated cortisol levels leads to a phenomenon known as neurotoxicity. The hippocampus is highly sensitive to the effects of cortisol, and prolonged stress can cause the neurons in this area to shrink or become less efficient at communicating with other parts of the brain. As a result, the hippocampus loses its ability to effectively encode and retrieve information. This is why individuals experiencing high levels of stress often report difficulty remembering things, feeling foggy, or struggling to retain new information. In the context of learning, this can translate to poor performance on tests, difficulty recalling key concepts during class, and an overall sense of mental exhaustion. Beyond impairing memory, stress also affects the way the brain processes information. When cortisol levels are high, the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for decision-making, problem-solving, and higher-order thinking, becomes less active. The prefrontal cortex works in tandem with the hippocampus to help us reason, plan, and think critically. However, when stress reduces the prefrontal cortex's ability to function, it becomes more difficult to process and analyze information. This means that individuals under stress may find it challenging to focus on learning tasks, as their cognitive resources are diverted to managing the stress itself rather than engaging in the task at hand. This cognitive overload can result in feelings of frustration and helplessness, further exacerbating the effects of stress on learning. In addition to affecting memory and cognitive function, stress also impairs the brain's ability to form new neural connections. Learning, at its core, is a process of strengthening neural pathways in the brain. Each time we encounter new information, our brain forms new connections between neurons, allowing us to understand and remember the material more effectively. However, chronic stress inhibits this process by reducing the brain's plasticity, the ability of the brain to reorganize and form new connections. This means that under stress, the brain becomes less efficient at learning and adapting to new information. As a result, individuals under chronic stress may experience a slowdown in their learning abilities, making it harder to acquire new knowledge and skills. Stress also influences our emotional state, and emotions play a significant role in the learning process. Positive emotions such as curiosity, excitement, and motivation enhance learning by activating areas of the brain associated with reward and pleasure. These areas, including the ventral striatum and the nucleus accumbens, release dopamine, a neurotransmitter that reinforces learning by making us feel good about the process. However, stress typically triggers negative emotions such as anxiety, fear, and frustration. These emotions not only interfere with our ability to focus, but also make it more difficult to experience the positive emotions that foster effective learning. Anxiety, in particular, has been shown to impair working memory, which is essential for holding processing and manipulating information in the short term. When we are anxious, our minds become preoccupied with worry and fear, which prevents us from fully engaging with the learning material. Another factor to consider is the impact of stress on sleep. Stress often leads to sleep disturbances, and sleep is crucial for memory consolidation. During sleep, the brain processes and consolidates information learned during the day, transferring it from short-term to long-term memory. However, when stress interferes with sleep, this process is disrupted, and memories are not properly encoded or retained. Sleep deprivation also impairs attention and cognitive function, making it even more challenging to learn and remember new information. This creates a vicious cycle, as the lack of sleep can lead to more stress, further hindering learning. Stress can affect the way we approach challenges and learning opportunities. When we are stressed, we tend to adopt a more defensive mindset. We become more focused on avoiding failure than on embracing growth. This fear of failure can lead to a fixed mindset where we believe that our abilities are set in stone and cannot be changed. In contrast, a growth mindset, believing that we can improve with effort and practice, has been shown to foster better learning outcomes. Stress, by fostering a fixed mindset, can limit our ability to approach learning challenges with curiosity and resilience. Instead of viewing difficulties as opportunities for growth, we may see them as threats, which further diminishes our motivation and ability to learn. It's also important to acknowledge the role of stress in shaping our behavior. Under stress, people are more likely to engage in unhealthy coping mechanisms, such as procrastination, avoidance, or substance use. Procrastination, in particular, is common among individuals who feel overwhelmed by stress, as they delay tasks in an attempt to avoid the negative emotions associated with them. However, procrastination only exacerbates the stress, creating a cycle of avoidance and anxiety. This behavior further interferes with the learning process, as individuals are unable to engage with the material in a timely or effective manner. The effects of stress on learning are not limited to those who experience extreme or chronic stress. Even short-term stress, such as the anxiety experienced before an exam or presentation, can have a significant impact on cognitive function. Research has shown that individuals who experience acute stress perform worse on tasks requiring memory and cognitive flexibility. This means that even in everyday situations, stress can hinder our ability to learn effectively. The more we experience stress, the more we are likely to struggle with maintaining focus, retaining information, and solving problems. The connection between stress and learning is complex, but the evidence is clear. Stress negatively impacts our ability to learn. Whether it's through impairing memory, reducing focus, or decreasing the brain's ability to form new connections, stress creates obstacles to effective learning. The chronic activation of stress hormones like cortisol, the reduction in brain plasticity, and the emotional and behavioral consequences of stress all contribute to a diminished capacity for learning. Understanding these effects is crucial for creating environments that promote better learning outcomes, particularly in educational settings, workplaces, and other areas where learning and personal growth are prioritized. Stress has a profound impact on how we manage and cope with challenges, including our ability to engage in learning. One of the most effective ways to counter stress and its effects on learning is by recognizing its signs and taking proactive breaks. Breaks allow the mind to recharge, reset, and regain focus, ultimately making it easier to engage with new material and absorb information. The simple act of stepping away from a task or taking time for self-care can significantly reduce the negative effects of stress, improving both mental clarity and cognitive performance. However, taking breaks effectively requires a thoughtful approach. One that is not merely about disengaging, but about giving the brain the rest it needs to perform optimally. When we are under stress, the brain enters a heightened state of alertness. Stress triggers the release of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone, which prepares us for action by sharpening our focus and increasing energy. While this heightened state can be beneficial in short bursts, such as when we need to respond quickly to a challenge, prolonged stress can lead to cognitive overload. When we constantly push ourselves to keep working without pausing for rest, our brain's capacity to process and retain information diminishes. Mental fatigue sets in, and focus becomes increasingly difficult to maintain. Proactive breaks help alleviate this mental fatigue by giving the brain time to recover and reset. Taking breaks during study sessions or work periods allows the brain to engage in a process called memory consolidation. Memory consolidation is the process by which newly acquired information is transferred from short-term memory to long-term memory. This process primarily occurs during rest periods, such as when we sleep or take short breaks. During these times, the brain organizes and strengthens neural connections, making it easier to retrieve and apply the information later on. Without adequate breaks, this process is hindered and the learning experience becomes less effective. Breaks, therefore, play a crucial role in reinforcing the material we are trying to learn, ensuring that it is properly encoded and stored for future use. Prolonged periods of intense focus, especially under stress, can lead to cognitive burnout. When the brain is pushed to its limits without time for recovery, its ability to think creatively, solve problems, or retain new information diminishes significantly. This phenomenon is often referred to as mental fatigue and is characterized by feelings of sluggishness, irritability, and a reduced ability to concentrate. Stress-induced mental fatigue makes it difficult to engage with tasks, and even simple tasks can begin to feel overwhelming. Proactive breaks provide the opportunity to recharge, allowing the brain to replenish its energy stores and regain the ability to focus. When we take breaks, the brain can clear away mental clutter, reducing the effects of cognitive fatigue and restoring our capacity to process information more effectively. The effectiveness of breaks also depends on how they are structured. Simply stepping away from a task without having a plan for how to rest may not provide the benefits needed. Active breaks, in which we engage in activities that promote relaxation or mindfulness, are particularly beneficial for reducing stress and recharging the brain. Activities such as walking, stretching, deep breathing exercises, or even brief meditation have been shown to lower cortisol levels and reduce stress. These activities not only help the brain relax, but also promote better blood flow, which is essential for cognitive function. By incorporating such breaks into our routine, we give our minds the opportunity to rejuvenate and come back to the task with a renewed sense of clarity and focus. It is important to note that not all breaks are created equal. Passive breaks, such as scrolling through social media or watching television, may provide temporary distraction, but they do not necessarily relieve stress or improve cognitive function. In fact, these activities may even increase stress or lead to mental overstimulation. The brain remains active during these passive breaks, processing external stimuli, which means it does not get the necessary downtime to relax and reset. On the other hand, mindful breaks, those that focus on relaxation, deep breathing, or movement, help to lower stress and restore cognitive function. These breaks allow the brain to disengage from the task at hand and enter a state of relaxation, reducing cortisol levels and improving focus when the break is over. One of the key benefits of taking breaks during times of stress is the improvement in mood. Stress often leads to negative emotions such as frustration, anxiety, and irritability, all of which hinder the learning process. When we are in a negative emotional state, it becomes harder to focus, think critically, and engage with new information. Taking breaks can help shift the emotional state, providing an opportunity for emotional regulation. Activities such as listening to calming music, engaging in a hobby, or spending time in nature can boost mood and provide a sense of relief. When we return to the task after a break, we are often able to approach it with a more positive attitude, making it easier to process information and tackle challenges with renewed energy. Furthermore, taking breaks encourages a healthy balance between effort and relaxation. Learning, whether in an academic, professional, or personal context, requires sustained effort and focus. However, if that effort is not balanced with rest, burnout and stress can result, diminishing the effectiveness of the learning process. By recognizing the need for breaks and incorporating them into our routines, we create a healthier learning environment, one that allows for both productivity and recovery. This balance is essential for long-term success, as it ensures that we are not only learning effectively, but also maintaining our mental well-being. Taking breaks also helps to prevent the buildup of negative self-talk, which can be exacerbated by stress. When we are under pressure and feeling overwhelmed, our inner dialogue can become harsh and self-critical. We may begin to believe that we are incapable of completing a task or that we are not working hard enough. Stress amplifies these negative thoughts, leading to a decrease in confidence and motivation. Taking breaks provides an opportunity to step away from these thoughts, allowing us to gain perspective and reduce the intensity of self-criticism. After a break, we often return to our work with a clearer, more positive mindset, which allows us to approach challenges with confidence rather than doubt. In educational settings, the importance of breaks cannot be overstated. Studies have shown that students who take regular breaks during study sessions perform better than those who try to cram for extended periods without rest. The Pomodoro technique, for example, encourages focused work for 25 minutes followed by a 5-minute break, with longer breaks after every 4 cycles. This method not only helps maintain focus, but also prevents burnout and stress from negatively impacting learning outcomes. By adopting such strategies, students can learn more effectively, retain information better, and reduce the overall stress associated with studying. Similarly, in professional settings, taking breaks can enhance productivity and creativity. Employees who are given the opportunity to rest and recharge are better able to concentrate, problem solve, and collaborate with others. Organizations that encourage regular breaks create a healthier, more sustainable work environment, leading to improved performance and job satisfaction. Recognizing the importance of breaks, particularly during times of stress, is essential for maintaining mental and emotional well-being while fostering effective learning. Proactive breaks allow the brain to recover, reset, and re-engage with tasks in a way that promotes better focus, productivity, and cognitive function. By incorporating mindful breaks into our routines, we can reduce the harmful effects of stress, improve our ability to learn, and enhance our overall mental health. Stress is often seen as a natural response to challenges, but it can have far-reaching consequences when it comes to memory and learning. When stress takes hold, it activates a variety of physiological and psychological processes that can disrupt the way we encode, retain, and recall information. One of the most significant ways stress interferes with learning is by impacting memory. Memory is essential to learning. It allows us to store information, retrieve it when needed, and build upon past knowledge to understand new concepts. Unfortunately, when we are stressed, these processes become impaired, and the result is a reduced ability to learn effectively. The brain is a complex organ, and memory formation involves several regions, including the hippocampus, which plays a crucial role in converting short-term memories into long-term ones. However, stress interferes with the functioning of the hippocampus. When we experience stress, the body releases cortisol, a hormone that prepares the body to deal with a perceived threat. While cortisol is useful in the short term as it helps us stay alert and focused during emergencies, it can be detrimental in the long term. Chronic or excessive stress increases the levels of cortisol in the brain, which has been shown to inhibit the hippocampus's ability to encode and retrieve memories. This impairment results in difficulties learning new information, remembering previously learned material, and recalling important details when needed. When stress levels are high, the hippocampus becomes less effective at forming new memories. This means that individuals under stress may struggle to learn and retain new concepts or ideas, making studying, reading, or taking in new information more challenging. Even if an individual is exposed to information, the stress-induced disruption in memory processes makes it difficult for the brain to store the information properly. As a result, the material is either forgotten quickly or not remembered accurately, which can hinder academic or professional performance. Furthermore, stress can impair the process of memory retrieval, making it harder to recall information when it is needed. When individuals are under stress, their cognitive resources are depleted, and their ability to focus and concentrate diminishes. This makes it more difficult to access stored memories, especially those that require effortful recall, such as when answering questions on an exam or recalling specific details from a presentation. The anxiety associated with stress exacerbates this problem, as it creates a mental block, making it even harder to retrieve the necessary information. The constant worry about forgetting something or failing to recall important details can also create a cycle of stress, which in turn makes memory retrieval even more difficult. Stress can also affect working memory, which is the ability to hold and manipulate information in the mind over short periods. Working memory is essential for tasks such as problem solving, decision making, and complex thinking. When stressed, working memory becomes less efficient, meaning that individuals have a harder time managing multiple pieces of information at once. For example, a student studying for an exam may struggle to retain and process information from different subjects simultaneously, or an employee might find it difficult to juggle multiple tasks or make decisions quickly. This decline in working memory capacity significantly impairs the ability to learn efficiently, as it becomes harder to process and organize new information. Additionally, stress can lead to a narrowing of attention, which further disrupts memory and learning. When we are stressed, our attention is often fixated on the source of stress, whether it be an upcoming exam, a tight deadline, or an interpersonal conflict. This heightened focus on stressors reduces our ability to attend to other important aspects of our environment, including the material we need to learn. As a result, stress diminishes our ability to absorb and retain new information. Stress has a profound impact on many aspects of our lives, and one of the most significant areas affected is our ability to focus. Focus is the foundation of learning. Without focus, the mind cannot engage fully with information, making it harder to retain knowledge and comprehend new ideas. When stress enters the picture, it disrupts this crucial ability to concentrate, diverting attention away from the task at hand and towards the stressors causing the anxiety. This impaired focus is particularly detrimental when it comes to learning, as it reduces our ability to absorb, process, and recall information effectively. Focus requires cognitive resources that allow us to pay attention to a specific task while filtering out irrelevant distractions. These cognitive resources are finite and can be easily depleted by external pressures. Under normal circumstances, when stress levels are manageable, the brain is capable of allocating these resources appropriately, directing attention where it is needed. However, when stress becomes overwhelming, the brain's resources are diverted to managing the stress response, leaving less mental energy available for focus and concentration. This diversion of mental resources can cause individuals to feel distracted, scattered, and unable to fully engage in the learning process. The physiological response to stress involves the activation of the sympathetic nervous system, which triggers the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. While these hormones are important for helping the body respond to immediate threats, they also affect the brain's ability to function optimally. Cortisol, in particular, has a significant impact on attention and focus. Elevated cortisol levels can reduce the activity of the prefrontal cortex, the area of the brain responsible for higher-order cognitive functions like decision-making, planning, and attention regulation. When the prefrontal cortex becomes less active, it becomes more difficult for the brain to stay focused on a task and ignore distractions. Instead, stress-induced cortisol creates a heightened sense of alertness, but it also makes it harder to concentrate on specific details or engage in deep, sustained thinking. The impact of stress on focus is further complicated by the way it affects the brain's emotional processing centers. The amygdala, an area of the brain responsible for processing emotions, is activated under stress, especially when an individual feels threatened or overwhelmed. The amygdala's primary role is to respond to perceived dangers, triggering the fight or flight response. When it is overactive due to stress, the brain becomes hypervigilant, constantly scanning the environment for potential threats. This heightened state of alertness is not conducive to focusing on academic tasks or learning activities. Instead of focusing on the material at hand, the brain is constantly preoccupied with feelings of anxiety and fear, making it challenging to maintain attention on less urgent matters like reading, studying, or engaging in intellectual discussions. This emotional dysregulation brought on by stress further undermines the ability to concentrate. When the brain is overwhelmed by negative emotions like anxiety, fear, frustration, it becomes much more difficult to sustain focus. The presence of stress can lead to rumination, repeatedly thinking about stressful events or worries. This cycle of repetitive thinking pulls the individual's attention away from the task and towards their concerns. As a result, the mind becomes scattered and unable to concentrate effectively on learning tasks. Instead of focusing on studying or absorbing information, the individual may be consumed by worries about exams, deadlines, or other stressors in their life. Moreover, stress doesn't only affect attention in the short term, it also disrupts the long-term ability to maintain focus. Chronic stress, in particular, has a cumulative effect on the brain's ability to regulate attention over time. Prolonged exposure to stress hormones like cortisol can damage the brain's neural connections, particularly in areas associated with learning and attention regulation. This long-term impact can lead to difficulties in sustaining focus over extended periods, a phenomenon that can become especially apparent in educational or work settings. Students, employees, or anyone engaged in intellectual pursuits may find themselves struggling to keep their attention on complex tasks for as long as they need to, leading to a decrease in productivity and performance. Another aspect of focus that is influenced by stress is the ability to switch attention between different tasks. Cognitive flexibility is essential for learning, as it allows the brain to adapt to new information and switch between different ideas or tasks as needed. However, stress can impair cognitive flexibility, making it harder to transition from one thought or task to another. This difficulty in switching attention can lead to mental rigidity, where the brain becomes stuck on certain thoughts or concepts, unable to shift focus as required. In a learning environment, this can manifest as an inability to shift between different subjects or ideas, leading to a fragmented learning experience, where connections between concepts are harder to make. Stress can also influence the quality of focus. It's not just about being able to concentrate, it's about being able to concentrate effectively and deeply. Stress tends to diminish the depth of focus, as the brain is too preoccupied with managing the stress response to engage in deeper thinking. Instead of immersing oneself fully in a subject or problem, stress limits the ability to concentrate in a sustained and meaningful way. This superficial level of focus can prevent individuals from gaining a full understanding of complex concepts or solving challenging problems, as their cognitive resources are divided between the task and the stressors in their life. In addition to affecting attention directly, stress also impacts the way we perceive and react to distractions. Under normal circumstances, the brain is capable of filtering out irrelevant information, allowing us to focus on what matters. However, when stress takes hold, the brain's capacity to filter distractions diminishes. Stress can heighten the brain's sensitivity to external stimuli, making it more likely to react to even minor interruptions. In a learning environment, this means that a stressed individual is more likely to be distracted by external noises, movements, or even internal thoughts that wouldn't otherwise disrupt their focus. This heightened sensitivity to distractions compounds the difficulty of maintaining attention, leading to a cycle of fragmented learning and reduced productivity. The relationship between stress and focus is particularly evident in academic settings, where the demands for sustained attention are high. Students under stress often find it difficult to concentrate during lectures, focus during study sessions, or engage in complex problem-solving tasks. The result is that they are less able to absorb and retain information, and their learning outcomes are significantly hindered. Stress-indulged difficulties with focus also extend to test-taking situations, where the pressure of exams can overwhelm the student's ability to concentrate on the questions and recall information accurately. As the mind races with anxiety and stress, the ability to focus on the task at hand deteriorates, making it even more challenging to perform well under pressure. This loss of focus due to stress is not limited to students. It affects anyone who is trying to learn, whether in formal educational settings, in the workplace, or in daily life. In work environments, stress can lead to difficulty staying focused during meetings, completing tasks on time, or processing important information. People may find themselves distracted by work stressors, such as deadlines, performance expectations, or interpersonal conflicts. As a result, productivity suffers, and the individual's ability to learn and grow professionally is significantly hindered. Stress has a direct and detrimental effect on focus, which is essential for learning. When stress takes over, it robs the brain of its ability to concentrate, undermines cognitive function, and leads to a fragmented and superficial learning experience. Whether it's the physiological effects of stress hormones, the emotional toll of anxiety, or the difficulty in filtering distractions, stress interferes with the mental processes necessary for effective learning. As a result, individuals under stress struggle to engage with information meaningfully, retain knowledge, and perform well academically or professionally. Stress is a powerful force that can affect our mental and emotional state in ways that often go unnoticed, especially when it comes to self-doubt. Self-doubt is a pervasive and often paralyzing feeling that causes us to question our abilities, talents, and potential. It can undermine our confidence, making it difficult to engage with tasks, solve problems, or perform well in any area of life, particularly in learning. Stress exacerbates self-doubt, creating a vicious cycle where the more stressed we become, the more we doubt ourselves, and the more we doubt ourselves, the more stressed we feel. This relationship between stress and self-doubt plays a significant role in how we approach learning, process information, and ultimately succeed or fail in educational, professional, or personal growth settings. When we are under stress, our minds become preoccupied with the perceived threat or pressure that caused the stress. This preoccupation creates an emotional and cognitive imbalance that leads to feelings of insecurity and doubt. Our brains become wired to focus on potential failure, worst-case scenarios, and all the ways in which we may not be good enough to achieve what we set out to do. These thoughts often take over, clouding our ability to think clearly or confidently about our abilities. Stress, by its very nature, narrows our focus and heightens our sense of vulnerability, making it more difficult to see the bigger picture of what we can accomplish. Self-doubt often stems from a deep-seated fear of failure or the belief that we are not capable of achieving our goals. This fear becomes more intense when we are stressed, as the emotional weight of stress amplifies feelings of inadequacy. Instead of viewing challenges as opportunities for growth, we may view them as insurmountable obstacles, believing that we will inevitably fail. This mindset shift, often caused by stress, leads to a reduction in self-esteem and the perception that we are not competent enough to succeed. The more we doubt ourselves, the more we disconnect from our potential. And this disconnection can significantly affect our learning capacity. Self-doubt can also be paralyzing. When we doubt our abilities, we become hesitant to take risks, try new approaches, or put ourselves in situations where we might fail. Learning, by its nature, requires a willingness to experiment, make mistakes, and grow from those mistakes. However, stress creates a mindset where mistakes are seen as signs of weakness or failure rather than as opportunities for learning. This fear of failure can prevent us from taking the necessary steps to engage fully with the learning process. We become reluctant to ask questions, challenge ourselves, or attempt new things because we fear that we are not good enough or that we will be judged for our perceived incompetence. The impact of stress on self-doubt can also manifest in the form of procrastination. When we are stressed and uncertain of our abilities, we often avoid the tasks that challenge us the most. This avoidance behavior is a defense mechanism to protect ourselves from facing the possibility of failure. However, procrastination only intensifies the stress and self-doubt, as the longer we delay, the more overwhelmed we feel. This creates a vicious cycle where the longer we avoid a task, the more stressed and doubtful we become, which leads to even greater avoidance. The result is often a downward spiral where stress, self-doubt, and procrastination feed off each other, making it even harder to engage with learning and complete tasks effectively.